Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week we go all over the world, including an imaginary place with many different climates, that's Zootopia. Then we follow Tina Fey to Afghanistan in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, head to London to see Gerard Butler try and save the world in London Has Fallen, and we learn about Mexican cartels in the Oscar-nominated documentary Cartel Land. Joe, we kick off with you and Zootopia, huge $75 million opening weekend. One of the few 100%ers on Rotten Tomatoes is down to 99 now. There's two negatives in there in the mix. But
99.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
For a big budget movie, that's pretty rare.
No,
So let's talk about it and see.
For this early in the year, that was like really high praise.
Yeah, very shocking.
And I guess I should point out, as some of the listeners may know, I've had a couple early...
that's right. This was in your top five
anticipated. And, obviously we had... a
couple of missteps.
Couple missteps, which was like okay, and the other one was Hail
Caesar,
which was like half
awful.
A movie, which really made me mad.
Mm-hmm.
But so Zootopia, I honestly did not think that the outcry was going to be anywhere near this positive. I thought the trailers looked funny. I thought it looked interesting. I'm like, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Why not? Turns out, I guess I picked a good one. But anyway, into the synopsis. It's the newest Disney film, and it does take place in this alternative world, very much like our own, with a bunch of anthropomorphic animals, many of whom live in relative harmony together in the city of Zootopia. And the film details this kind of unlikely partnership, kind of reminiscent of one of my favorite comedy films, often referenced, the 48 Hours, in a way. So between this rabbit police officer, who's voiced by Jennifer Goodwin, who has always dreamed of making a difference despite everyone telling her she can't because she's a little bunny rabbit, and teaming up with this fox con artist as they uncover this conspiracy that involves missing civilians, and the citizens all seem to be natural predators like jaguars and stuff like that. This movie is very good. I don't really have much significantly negative to say about it. I think the animation's beautiful. For certain, I think the detail of the world's really cool. They kind of have these established environments for all the different animals. I think that there was a lot of good comedy, a lot of good satire, trying to implement, the social media and, of course, some universal ideas about, the small kid moving into the big city. Mm-hmm. So some story tropes we've seen before. And I think, like a lot of good kids' movies do, I think that it's certainly accessible for adults. Certainly, they can watch it, get a lot out of it, because it is a relatively complicated story. There's a lot of themes explored here, but there's enough going on the kids can get the message and enjoy it. I think for the most part the comedy was really great. I thought the voice acting was pretty good for the most part. And I think most importantly, though, some of the messages that it employs are very good.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of believing in yourself and not judging people based on appearances, and some pretty heavy stuff about racism, which I thought was pretty...
I'd agree.
Absolutely.
Pretty noticeable, and, but I think handled very well. The only thing I could say that might be a negative is that I kind of felt like going into it with all that praise, I feel like it's a story we've seen before. It's executed brilliantly, but I don't know. I've seen it before.
I really feel like the Disney animation studios have taken a tip or two from their partners at Pixar. Mm-hmm. I sort of mentioned this years ago when we did Wreck-It Ralph on the new classic, because I thought Wreck-It Ralph sort of created its own world like a lot of Pixar movies do, and this is very reminiscent of the same thing. You mentioned, Joe, that the different climates.
I want to kind of add on to something you said that made me realize something. This movie, when I saw it, I guess I'm thinking about it now, I think that one thing that really stood out differently to me was that it doesn't really feel like a traditional Disney movie.
Not at all.
Like, if somebody told me that this wasn't Disney, I could believe it. Mm-hmm. And I think Wreck-It Ralph is similar. Like, I wouldn't automatically think Disney per se.
Right.
It has some minor elements, but it's very separate from the general types of stories they tell, which are kind of unified under like one main idea.
Right.
Well, that's a good point, Joe. I mean, I think Disney's very much straying away from its typical like go the Disney princess, go the fairy tale route. They're trying to branch out into other things and hit a bunch of different target audiences.
And I like that.
This is...
Well, I think it depends. Obviously, Frozen was their biggest hit ever. So, I can't say that they're going to shut the door on that. Obviously, Frozen 2 in production.
But they're deviating.
That wasn't what I was trying to say.
But, I mean, what's interesting, though, is think about the original maybe 5 or 6 movies. Yeah, there were a couple princesses in there. but you also had Pinocchio.
Yep.
You had Dumbo.
Naturally.
You had Bambi. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are all movies without princesses, but of course everybody associates the whole princess with Disney, which makes sense. The logo is the Magic Castle, and
Yep.
they have all the princesses on parade when you go to Disney World. And certainly some of their biggest hits were of the Cinderella, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast variety.
I guess if we want to be fair,
But
I mean, all like the '90s Renaissance, most of those aren't really traditional Disney
and that's
stories.
what's funny. Like all of their
Pretty big hits.
Their big hits. I mean, I think when they deviated entirely from princesses, which would have been like
2000s.
the 2000s up till really like Tangled Princess and the Frog.
Yeah,
and those were some really bad movies. They had that string of like, what was it? The one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Treasure
Planet.
Which I don't honestly think is that bad.
It was different.
You know, I mean, I liked Meet the Robinsons, but that wasn't much of a hit.
Oh, no.
You know? But what I like about this is that not only do they have the worlds with the different climates and stuff, but everything is sort of to scale, like for the different animals. They have their little mouse town.
That was cool.
And they have, you know, and I thought that was very creative. In a lot of cartoons, you see everybody's the same size.
Yeah.
You know? So I thought that was cool. I think the visual aspect of this movie, on the whole, is great. And for me, the best of the voice work, Jason Bateman, he is outstanding in this movie as the Fox. It's one of the best voice performances I've seen in a long time.
Well, you're a Bateman fan. And if I may play devil's advocate here, though, it was a great performance.
It was.
Of Jason Bateman as Jason Bateman. Basically. When I'm
not entirely sure if I can agree with that.
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
All right. Maybe a little bit different, but I watched Bad Words again not too long ago, and I'm like, wow, this is very much the same thing.
I do like that movie.
Very similar. I'm just saying. Very Bateman-y character, for sure.
It is, but I mean, at the same time, Woody and Tom Hanks are basically the same person.
That's true. I mean, it's not necessarily... It's not
that's
necessarily
a great voice performance.
It's true.
I mean, I would argue it's more or less how you spin the character that brings it to life. I mean, I would never have a problem telling the difference between Nick Wilde and Mr. Bluth.
Yeah, true. Well, okay, to bring up another upcoming example, Sudeikis in the Angry Birds movie, judging from the trailer, seems like Sudeikis being an angry bird.
Yes.
This seems like an actual performance for a person.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
To bring up a horrible boss's cohort.
Yes.
Fair enough.
But one thing I love, Joe, that you didn't mention that I think Justin probably would like as well is the whole mystery noir type element of the story. I thought the mystery was very engaging.
Well, I mean, you could probably guess what my favorite scenes were.
The Breaking Bad parody? That was pretty good.
Wait for Walter and Jesse.
It's like, come to me on the day of...
of course, the Godfather scenes. Yes, of
Mr.
course.
Big was pretty good.
That was good. But one thing I liked is that it wasn't all gag material.
No.
You know, there were 2 or 3 minute stretches because the story's so strong that they weren't even really going for gags.
No.
They were sort of focusing in on the relationships and the stories. So yeah, I think it's a great movie. Easily the best of the year thus far.
Well,
hands down.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know, you gave Deadpool an A. I gave Deadpool a very high grade.
That's true. No, but I agree. No, did you like the noir element, Justin?
I did. I thought it was a really solid caper. It worked within its own mythology, and it didn't get overly complicated that kids would have trouble keeping up with it, which I thought was a really pleasant surprise.
I'm noticing a pattern, too. The last couple Disney movies have all had, like, twists about the villain. Which I thought was
that's fair.
Which I'm like, I kind of like, but at the same time, I'm kind of getting tired of it. Like, you can almost see it coming now. Which is...
Well, I definitely saw it coming in Big Hero 6.
Well, that was
super obvious.
That was super obvious, but like, you know, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, not quite as obvious.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph was definitely a little bit more subtle.
Yeah.
They managed to finally bring something new to the table with the whole buddy cop genre, adding in some capers, and also managing to tackle these deeper themes and giving us what I would argue is quite possibly the best female role model for kids, honestly, ever.
Well, I don't know about ever.
No,
that's a pretty bold statement.
I could think of a couple that
are some heroines.
I'll admit, I think she's definitely more unique than the traditional one shown. But you know, I think some of the other ones, like, you know, we got Belle, we got Mulan, we got some good ones. You know, I mean, I don't know if I'd say best ever,
but I think what really does sell this is Bateman and Goodwin managing to play off each other truly beautifully, embodying not only their characters, but really managing to give this whole story life through their journey. Mm-hmm. My only real negative is, I mean, I've heard people say, the whole twist is kind of seen before. My counter to that would just simply be, it's not necessarily the familiarity. There's the age-old statement, every story has been told. The question nowadays, which I counter with that, is if you spin it, it becomes new again. But the one thing that really does bother me is the wildly cliche and completely unnecessary inclusion of a celebrity that turns into a running gag and then ultimately ends with inevitable pointless dance number.
All right. Now, I'm going to comment on that because I don't think it's like my main flaw with the movie, but if I had a big nitpick, it was funny the first time. I was kind of all right. I was kind of mad that she was the final main credit. Like she's like a significant part of the cast. Like I see where you're coming from a little bit. I don't know.
It was alright. It didn't bother me. I mean, I didn't really give it much thought at all.
I don't think I liked her design.
I don't think the gag landed.
I thought it did like at first.
Yeah.
Like the second callback I thought was okay. The first callback was like,
I think that's kind of...
I kind of have like an unofficial policy that if a kid's movie ends on a random dance sequence just because they want to be adorable, it will automatically be lowered 1 grade point.
Well, it was certainly in line with the main message of the movie.
The exception that proves the rule is Toy Story 3, where yes, they do have a dance number, but it's a callback to an actual motif that's imperative to the actual storyline.
Yeah, I couldn't see through the tears, so I don't even know what scene you're talking about. Legitimately, I have no recollection of a dance scene.
Must be the last one.
Okay,
yes,
sure. I mean, the Giselle thing didn't really bother me. The only thing that bothered me about it was the gag is a play on words of Adele, but it's Shakira. That's the only thing that bothered me about it.
I was thinking, okay,
they could have come up with an animal name for Shakira.
I will admit,
I'm sure.
I'm not the most up to date on like pop stuff. When I said Gazelle, Adele, her music sounds kind of like Shakira.
But then it was Shakira.
I'm like, what?
Shadira, and then you have her be a deer.
Yeah, there you go. Reindeer.
That was just off the top of my
head.
There
you go.
I'm sure they could come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The point is,
does kind of bug me.
If you're going to do the play on words, at least have the real person. And obviously Adele isn't going to do this. Yeah. But anyway, Joe, let's move to the grades.
Well, I thought it was a very good movie, and I leave it with a very solid A.
I do as well. It's really just a tick off an A+ for me.
But you didn't really give it a negative, so I got to hear what's the thing keeping from an A+.
The only thing, other than the Adele Shakira thing,
it's annoying, yeah,
which was annoying, I thought that perhaps they were trying a little too hard with the message, not like Tomorrowland style.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
in terms of Disney messages, it's more in the middle of the road. But I could have done without a couple of scenes.
There are certainly almost every scene does kind of hammer it home. Yeah. But
that's really it. I mean, and it's not a negative that upon a second viewing would preclude it from possibly getting an A+. I think it's an almost flawless film.
I agree, but I do feel that there is something about it which seems to be a little lacking. Mm-hmm. I'm curious though, because Justin was having big issues. There was hate. There was all that hate as usual. So I'm curious. How we doing?
I mean, with the exception of that, with that incredibly cliche end credits moment, I mean, it's an A. I thought
so. Without that, it would be an A+.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just keeping in line with
that was kind of annoying to take you out of the movie. I could see that.
That was the end of the movie, though. I didn't really care.
We'd be walking out anyway.
Yeah. Did you guys think it was weird there wasn't a short?
Yes, very weird.
What was up with that?
I
hadn't heard ahead of time that there wasn't, so I figured there was.
I was expecting the Mickey Mouse logo to turn into something for a second because at that point, but no, you're right. There wasn't a short.
Every Pixar movie has one, and I would say any Disney movie the last decade.
Yeah, more or less.
For a suggestion. I think that the budget was obviously so focused on the animation for this movie. Maybe they decided to just focus it completely on that.
Could be.
Maybe.
Their shorts are pretty well received, though, I feel like. They usually win Oscars.
More than the movie
usually.
Sometimes, yeah. All right, well, up next is Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. This is the story of real-life reporter Kim Barker, who is played in the movie by Tina Fey as Kim Baker, a TV journalist trying to make a name for herself. So she takes a short-term assignment as a war correspondent in Afghanistan, which turns into a very long-term assignment as Kim assimilates to her surroundings and ends up making the country her home for years. There she meets a fellow female journalist, played by Margot Robbie, a perverted Scottish photographer played by Martin Freeman, and Billy Bob Thornton co-stars as an American Marines commander who Kim clashes with. And we kind of joked about this off-air, that the similarities on the surface to a couple of the worst movies of last year are Brando's Crisis, which ironically stars Thornton as well, and Rock the Casbah. But, I think we get a much better result from Whiskey. It's not outstanding, but it's definitely much better than those two films. I feel like the big flaw is the odd tonal shifts. Now, I don't know if you gentlemen know this, but it was adapted from this book by Barker by longtime Faye collaborator Robert Carlock, who wrote for 30 Rock, Kimmy Schmidt, he wrote for Friends. So this movie has a very hard time veering between the very intense and real scenes of, IEDs going off, for example, with Faye's patented joke delivery that Carlock has been writing for years. And sometimes the soundtrack wasn't even sure what scene it was playing under, notably the hostage rescue scene towards the end. So that was sort of, for me, the biggest stumbling point. And I have some mixed feelings about Roby's subplot. But overall, I did enjoy the structure of the film. It sort of, takes an annual approach to her being in Afghanistan. I thought it was paced well. Faye's performance is great, as she typically is. But what did you guys think? I mean, for me, the tone obviously was the biggest deal.
No, I completely agree. It was very much trying to follow in like the whole MASH, like it's war and it can be incredibly dark, but there are more lighthearted moments, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Except it has no idea how to deliver those moments, and it definitely shows more often than not. And because of that, I felt it was an incredibly slow-moving movie at times. Faye's trying to make it work, and she plays off Roby fairly well. It's just the scenes between the two of them are very few and far between, and the whole Freeman subplot is just kind of a mess. I thought it...
I mean, I didn't mind the Freeman part just because it gave her a reason other than the notoriety of the news to stay there.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, the stuff that they're tackling is definitely ambitious, and in the general concept, I was never really bored by it. It was just kind of a slog to get to some of those better moments. Like, the last I want to say, like, 25, 30 minutes are actually fairly compelling. It's just a long, and for me anyways, a fairly taxing journey to get there.
See, I did not feel the length of this at all. I enjoyed the pacing of it. I just wish that maybe Carlock had gotten a co-writer to sort of help him finesse the more dramatic scenes. Now, Joe, I'm assuming you didn't see this because you're not talking.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, to me, that's what stood out the most. It wasn't the pacing. The Roby subplot, her presence was fine. Her character was okay. I got why she had to be there. And I'm going to assume she's a real person, unlike Eddie the Eagles trainer.
I mean, I can believe either story.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I'm fine with that. But I don't know. I mean, the way it resolved was okay. I just either maybe give us a few more scenes with the two of them, or pare it down a little bit. I had mixed feelings.
Definitely. I don't think it was necessarily bad. It was just it kind of ends abruptly.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, and it gives Faye a really good cathartic moment towards the end, because of that last exchange they have. But I feel like that could have existed independent
absolutely.
Of Roby anyway.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I thought Billy Bob Thornton did a great job.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
the last couple movies he was in...
he's been kind of sleepwalking.
He's not been good.
Yeah, but this one you can at least tell he was getting into character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have actually liked to see more of him.
I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like his attitude towards Faye's character sort of changes on a dime.
It does. I did feel that a little bit. I sort of felt from that first time when they go out together and he sees kind of what a badass she is and sort of fearless, I could see, a Marines commander saying like, okay, props to her, my attitude has changed. I could see that.
A little bit.
I mean, I don't deny that it's abrupt for the movie, but to me it made sense.
I think the big thing for this is I just wish there was more time devoted to like actually fleshing out some of these more dramatic moments. It's trying so hard to balance this dark storyline with moments of subtle comedy, but doesn't really insert them at the appropriate times, and when they do, they kind of don't work.
Well, and I think one of the great scenes, dramatic wise, they don't even attempt comedy, and that is when she gets out of the car to go to this I don't know what you call it, protest.
Yeah.
And it's no women allowed, and it erupts into this big thing.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing that for laughs at all, and that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good scene.
It was very powerful.
Yeah.
That scene could have gone on longer and would have just built tension. But
Well, I mean, obviously, we all enjoyed This Is Where I Leave You. I think Faye really does well with the dramatic stuff. I think her because I think she also didn't know how to segue between the comedy and the drama.
that's probably fair.
So I think if they gave her, because her dramatic scenes were very good, but I definitely enjoyed it more than certainly the other two films I mentioned, and I would say more than I thought I would. I give Whiskey a B.
C for me.
Okay. Well, Joe, let's go back to you and talk about London Has Fallen.
Well, there really isn't much of a synopsis for this one, but it's a sequel to that White House Down-ish movie, Olympus Has Fallen. Now, Gerard Butler and Aaron Eckhart return once again, but this time in London, as a massive terrorist group attacks all the leaders of the world, the main ones, with our two heroes on the run again as they go after the president.
And Freeman once again
Takes over, VP.
in the Oval Office or the Situation Room or wherever it is.
So it's a Deep Impact sequel.
It kind of is, except they impact England specifically, not the planet. So it's terrorists instead of a meteor. But I mean, I guess in this universe, it's about the same level of threat. Really. Gotta say, these guys are on top of things. Though. Like,
I was gonna say.
These guys, like, I have to give them props. Like, this is some DC Comics, like, Legion of Doom level, just destruction. This film will come with a caveat with the grade, obviously. This is a bad movie. I'll admit.
Tell me more, Joe.
It's a really bad movie. Some people are sleepwalking. I mean, Morgan Freeman's asleep. Angela Bassett is just horrible.
Yeah, she's really bad in this movie.
I usually like her. She was bad.
She was in the first one too, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I know most of her lines weren't that great, but her just terrible delivery. Eckhart and Butler were all right. They were kind of doing what they were doing, honestly. I can't really say that it was great, but they served their function. Not that there was really... This movie doesn't really have much of a story. It's like you really know everything from the trailer, and you're going to see it for one reason.
Things go boom.
Things go boom. Ridiculous violence, just machine guns, get the bad guys, save the people, and my audience loved it.
Oh, yeah.
They loved it, and I'm like, I understand why. This is like dumb popcorn fare. This is like in the vein of, your standard 80s B action flick. It's not really that great, but if you just turn your brain off, it's kind of fun. And there's almost like this sort of stylized element to it that I kind of did like, because some of like the effects were so bad.
Oh, they were terrible.
Like this helicopter.
I mean, I would argue the first round was worse, but
maybe. But the helicopters crashing is obviously CGI. You've all the blood splatters so fake. It's just it's like levels of like.
you probably could have.
It's really bad.
It's like Uwe Boll level caliber effects. But with like
that's just mean.
It is. I mean, like that's like some painted on like Adobe Premiere. Like, come on, like that is some. Those were cheap effects. Like, that's web video effects.
Can I tell you my least favorite part of the movie?
Oh, this ought to be good.
It's effects based.
Wait,
Please go on.
I don't know if my memory of it's that good.
It's actually pretty early on in the movie.
Oh no.
I'm gonna assume they either couldn't afford extras, or they just didn't want to digitally enhance them or something. But shortly after they land in London, and things start going boom.
Yep.
Okay. They literally blow up a bridge, which is like it's like a parking lot of cars. Nobody's moving on this bridge when they blow it up, right?
Japanese,
Yet literally not one person gets out of a car and starts running.
Yeah, it's
the
just all the
bridge
cars
blows
just
up
go
and
down.
they all just sit there in their car. We don't see them, of course, because it's a faraway shot.
Yeah.
But
We
I
see
feel
the-
like I might see some people. We see one Japanese man
he
going
tries
down
to get
the
out.
ocean.
He does try to get out.
Well, he's about the only one, because everyone else was just sitting pretty in their car wondering when they're going to die.
I just think
That really, bothered me.
I just think it's funny because
You don't believe in Titanic moment there, Dan?
Titanic people were running, Justin.
They were running.
Yes, they were.
You know, one thing that was kind of funny that did honestly bother me. Like, most of it I just kind of accepted. But there were, like, some minor plot points. Like, you know how, I'll spoil it, like, not all of the world leaders get killed. Like,
No.
for instance, I thought there were going to be some, like, subplots. Like, what are these people going to do? Like, there's this, like, the Italian president's with his wife or mistress or something exploring London. And they don't die, and like, oh, we're alive, and we never see them again. What happens to the Italian? I mean, like, stuff like that just bugs me. Like, why show us them and establish those characters if you don't get at least one more scene?
Because, Joe, America is far more important.
No, America saves the day. The last, I'll tell you though, if they make
So much American flag.
so much. I hope they make a London Has Fallen video game because I want to play that FPS.
Oh my God.
Because that was like I'm like, wow, this is like some SOCOM. That was like, that's hardcore.
Look, I mean,
Hardcore,
you can
man.
turn your brain off for a movie.
Yeah.
That's fine. But it also has to have, like, some semblance of a plot, something that kind of makes sense. Like, San Andreas is a good example.
That is.
That was a turn your brain off movie that is way better than this.
Established plot points and better acting.
For me,
Yeah.
the worst acting. Angela Bassett was bad.
She was horrible.
But for me, I'm sorry, Eckhart was... He was, like, half doing, like, a... It's funny he was in, Dark Knight, because he was half doing this, like, gravelly, like, Batman type of voice. Okay, so the bridge was my least favorite scene.
Okay.
My least favorite line, and this movie's full of them,
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
was Aaron Eckhart, right? He's like, being captured. He's, seconds away from death on YouTube for the world to see. And, something...
He's
He
like,
hears
gives a
Gerard
speech,
Butler
yeah.
coming, and he goes to the captors, he goes, "You hear that? That's the sound of inevitability." I was like, oh, this is terrible.
It's a great line, though. I like
It's
it.
a horrible line.
It's so awesome.
I'll tell you why I haven't been jumping in, Dan, and that's for one very simple reason. This movie made me so angry.
About what?
I thought very long and hard about giving this an F.
Oh, wow.
Now,
I thought long and hard about it.
Now, back when Olympus Has Fallen came out, and there was that whole similarly themed movie, White House Down, why I gave Olympus Has Fallen the better grade is because it at least knew what it was.
I prefer Olympus.
It was basically Die Hard meets The Raid on steroids, but it at least did that fairly well. This one turns into pro-drones drivel / with a nice side of xenophobia.
Yeah.
Butler, at least in the first one, had a moment where you could at least empathize with him and sort of get behind him. I'm a firm believer that you got to have at least one moment to legitimately get behind a character. Here is the sole thing that makes you that the movie wants you to get behind Butler's character the second go round. He has a kid on the way. Never mind the fact that he basically hates everyone, is horrible to basically everyone, spews some of the worst one-liners I have ever heard, and...
Well, he does give bad one-liners. I can't deny that. But I like him because he's trying to save the world and the president, and he does not falter from that at all.
That is his goal.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that.
Now, Justin, I wanted to like...
More or less out of circumstance than rather, like, wanting to. I mean, it
No,
kicks off with
because-
his letter of res, but...
No, he
It does,
job.
but don't forget the scene in the middle where
This is
those
duty.
guys come in and say, like, "Hey, we're doing this," and he was like, "No, you're not. I'm spearheading this because I've saved him before. Let's go."
Which
He could have bowed out.
should
which
have
I
brought
never
Mark
would
in.
have bought at all, but
Well, obviously, it's a stupid movie, but
it is a
You've seen the
monumentally
first
stupid
movie.
movie.
but I'm saying it makes him likable.
It's his action hero
Yeah.
story. It's fine. No, it is what he is. No, I wanted to offer kind of another perspective, though. I know that some of the backlash to this movie is the whole, like, xenophobia, racist thing, and I do agree that the character is kind of this caveat for some obvious extreme
I'll be honest.
Americanism.
For the first third of the movie, I was kind of on the villain side. It's like, okay, U.S. bombed my family based on a suspicion.
Well,
yeah, you've got a right to be angry.
all right, I don't want to delve into anything too sensitive here. I do see...
I certainly can't say I was ever on the
No, like this is let me
their side of trying to blow up the world, but all right.
No, I actually thought that the movie did present the villains actually fairly well for what they were. They did evil things. They were super powerful. Did bad things. They were bad people.
Did do bad things, but
They were bad people.
I don't... I'm not denying that.
They were still human beings, and yes, their reason for revenge is...
Yeah, they have a reason to be angry, not end the world.
It's like, okay, you want to take out the president, fine, but you are not painting a great picture for your cause, whatever it is. So it's like, I can see both sides. I have seen far more racist portrayals of villains in many movies than this.
The original Olympus has fallen, but...
My caveat grade, I thought this was dumb, but kind of fun. I would give it a C-.
Okay. Well, we reviewed Gods of Egypt last week with Gerard Butler, which I gave a D to. Awful, awful, awful. This movie is not necessarily a better movie than that, but it is more enjoyable to watch, so I give it a D+. All
right.
Slightly better.
That's actually better than I thought.
Well, if we were going off of personal enjoyment factor here, this movie would be a D. However, much like you, Joe, I was in a theater full of people cackling at every terrible one-liner and loving up all the action, so I feel like D+ is probably more appropriate.
I think if you're going there for like just to see some people get blown up, ooh, America, kill the bad guy, and then forget about it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I think it's just been done 20 times better in a host of other films.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is like bare bones action, but
yeah.
It does what it needed to do, I guess.
All right. Justin, let's hear about Cartel Land.
Well, Cartel Land chronicles the ongoing drug war with the Mexican cartels, primarily the Knights Templar. Dr. Jose Mireles leads a citizen uprising known as Autodefensas by providing civilians with firearms to defend their land. Meanwhile, veteran Tim Foley does his part to prevent the conflict from entering across the border as all parties push the boundaries of the law. I gotta say, I'm really impressed at how much the director Heinemann was able to capture just all aspects of this conflict, looking at the good, the bad, and just about everything in between, be it from the civilians' point of view, from the leaders' point of view, from basically every single aspect of the violent conflict that you can imagine. And I like the multiple perspective because it adds a lot more. It adds a lot more honesty to it, a lot more authenticity, which I think really is why it works so well as a documentary. And I think it's paced so well that it almost doesn't even feel like a documentary at times. It almost feels more like a thriller. If I had to really give a criticism, it would probably be I wish there was a little bit more balance between the various aspects. Like there are some times where they choose to focus on the cartels themselves, and they're few and very far between. They're almost like a bookend at times. And there's also long instances where we'll focus on Mireles' story, and it'll be a very, very long time before we ever get back to Foley. And I think sometimes they don't go far enough with the criticism and aspects like that. They definitely show that it's not a black or white issue, which I very much do appreciate. But I think there's even more they can go with in terms of fleshing that out.
I actually think that is the big negative for me of the movie, is that it doesn't delve quite deep enough into, sort of the political landscape and the background on everything. I loved, though, the route they took with it, with the different, subsects and talking to pretty much everybody on all the different sides. I could not believe the interviews that were granted and the access.
Oh my gosh.
That's by far the best part. But I would have liked to have been a little bit more informed, just in a general sense, of, the history and all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I think that they probably could have fleshed it out that way, maybe with more interviews kind of focused on those questions to get it more focused. But I think it's funny that is definitely... I kind of agree with you guys that it doesn't delve quite deep enough into any of the issues like your typical documentary does. It's more of a show, not tell thing, which is really the best strength of it, because unlike most documentaries, it's not like, I'm not going to tell you this, I'm not going to read you this.
It's certainly not boring in that aspect.
So, I mean, that's the thing I really liked about it, is that it doesn't take the typical documentary route. It just kind of shows you all these different aspects and all these different people and how it's complicated, and it semed really real. And you're right, it doesn't
take from that what you will, which I do appreciate.
No, and I like that. It kind of was its own living, breathing thing. That's why I don't want them to go the regular route where it's just like, let's cut to this guy, Secretary of Press here. Well, you see, based on that would totally ruin the flow of it.
No, but you could get the people that are being interviewed to talk a little bit about not only their own personal experience, but their knowledge of certain other aspects.
And I think they probably should, but you also kind of have to take into account the different situations, how willing were people to talk about certain things. And so, I mean, like, certainly with some
they
of the
got
cartels.
super personal, so I got to imagine.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could have
But it's
probably asked some more.
Could you tell me, like, the history of this here, or, the impact here? I don't know. Maybe it would have seemed a little less genuine. Hard to say.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's an important aspect to the actual subject matter.
I just think without that, sometimes it does feel like, Justin said, like a thriller. I thought in certain scenes it felt more like a grittier, more intense version of Cops. Which I don't think is necessarily a positive.
I don't know.
I mean, it depends on the handling. I mean, I'm not going to say Cops is a great show. That's just not true. But
I don't know. X-Cops was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, what? X-Cops?
The X-Files, Cops
Oh,
crossover.
well.
It can be done well.
Simpsons Cops is good,
Honestly,
too.
I think the fundamentals, I haven't watched much of Cops, but I know the early seasons apparently were pretty groundbreaking because of what they did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Cops is a very groundbreaking show. But
I think some things about it are interesting.
when I say an amped up version of Cops, obviously they're not doing
Raids and
raids
Right.
on cartels in Cops. They're more, domestic disputes and car
Though,
chases.
to be fair, I think that, it's one thing Cops should have done is really go past the basic stuff that's silly
Yeah.
and, maybe we can...
possibly.
Then you have to edit out everything, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to say, welcome to reality TV. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin, how many of the nominated documentaries have you seen?
all of them.
Okay, and where does this fall on the...
Runner-up. Amy was good. What Happened, Miss Simone was probably my least favorite.
Okay.
Winter on Fire was very, very powerful, but for me, it's Oppenheimer's follow-up to The Act of Killing, The Look of Silence.
Well, I do love The Act of Killing. I've only seen this in Amy. I preferred Amy, although based on the subject matter, I thought this one was going to take the prize.
I mean, ordinarily I would agree, but I feel like the Academy is...
A little too gritty.
Too
I
controversial.
feel like they're a
for
little.
them?
I feel like they're a little too sensitive with more politically centric docs.
Well, it's not like there's like...
Act of
That's
Killing.
true.
Act of Killing was kicked out by 20 Feet from Stardom, I believe it was.
Well, I love that movie.
It was a great documentary.
But another example of why I maybe thought Amy wasn't going to win, because they just did a music documentary 2 years ago.
Oh,
you know.
yeah, that's fair.
But anyway. Joe, I assume this is the only one you've seen, because you didn't see Amy.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how'd you like it? What's your grade?
Well, I thought it was pretty solid. I'd leave it with an A.
Okay. It's a B+ for me.
A as well.
All right. Well, that will do it for the show. Tons of minisodes up for you guys to check out, and we'll have a new one coming very soon with the DC month movies. We've all picked an old classic in the DC realm, of course, for Batman v Superman. So that will be posting very soon, and of course our Star Trek reviews. Joe, as we gear up for summer, I know you're ramping up your stuff on your channel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of the superhero stuff. Of course, Batman v Superman will be one of the first things we discuss, for sure.
And now that X-Files is over, we have to shift gears off of that.
Yeah, so I guess I'll have to figure out what else I'm going to watch. I mean, Better Call Saul's back. Maybe
Oh, that's true.
There you go.
about
Do
that.
some reviews on that.
Maybe.
All right. Well, you can subscribe to our channel, listeners, and that is right here on the YouTube page. You can check us out on Facebook as well, Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.